Startups generate employment, bringing innovation, and are expected to be key partners in Make in India program. I propose to assist their propagation through 100% deduction of profits for 3 out of the 5 years for startups set up during April 2016 to March 2019. MAT will apply in such cases. Capital gains will not be taxed if invested in regulated or notified fund of funds and by individuals in notified startups for which they hold majority shares. Research is a driver of innovation, and innovation provides a thrust to economic growth. I propose a special patent regime with 10% tax on income from worldwide exploitation of patents developed and registered in India. In order to get more investment in the asset reconstruction companies, which plays a very important role in the resolution of bad debts, I propose to provide a complete pass-through of income tax to securitization trusts, including trust of ARCs. The income will be taxed in the hands of the investor instead of the trust. However, trusts will be able to deduct tax at source. The period for getting long-term capital gain regime in the case of unlisted companies is proposed to be reduced from 3 to 2 years. Non-banking financial companies will be eligible for deduction to the extent of 5% of their income in respect of provision for bad and doubtful debts. For determining the residency of foreign company on basis of place of effective management is proposed to be deferred by 1 year. I would like to reiterate our commitment to implement the general anti-avoidance rules from 1/4/2017. In order to meet our commitments to the BEPS initiative of the OECD and G20, the Finance Bill 2016 includes provisions for requirement of country-by-country reporting for companies with a consolidation revenue of more than euros 750 million. I propose to exempt service tax on services provided under the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushalya Yojana and services provided by assessing bodies empaneled by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. I propose to exempt service tax on general insurance service provided by under the Nirmaya Health Insurance Scheme launched by the National Trust for Welfare of Persons with autism, cerebral palsy, mental retardation and multiple disability. To promote the use of refrigerated containers, I propose to reduce the basic custom duty by the excise duty to them from 5% to 6%. As a number of assistive devices, rehabilitation aids and other goods for differently abled persons attract nil basic custom duty. Accepting the suggestion that came from the Mr. Rahul Gandhi, I propose to exempt this exemption to the burial paper also. Customs and excise duty structures plays an important role in incentivizing domestic value addition towards Make in India campaign of our government. In line with that, I propose to make suitable changes in the customs and excise duty rates of certain inputs, raw materials, intermediaries, components and certain other goods, and simplifying procedures as to reduce cost and improve competitiveness of domestic industry in sectors like information technology, hardware, capital goods, defense production, textiles, mineral fuels, mineral oils, chemicals, petrochemicals, paperboard and newsprint, maintenance, repair and overhauling of aircrafts and ship repair. Details of these changes are given in annexure to the budget speech. Measures for providing a pension society. Pension schemes offer financial protection to senior citizens. I believe that the tax treatment should be uniform for defined benefits and defined contribution pension schemes, pension plans. I propose to make withdrawal up to 40% of the corpus at the time of retirement tax exempt in the case of the National Pension Scheme. In case of superannuation funds and recognized provident funds, including EPF, and the same norm of 40% of the corpus to be tax-free will apply in respects of corpus created out of contribution made after 1/4/2017. Further, the annuity fund which goes to the legal heir after the death of the pensioner will not be taxable in all three cases. Also, we are proposing a monetary limit for contribution of the employer in recognized provident and superannuation fund at 1.5 lakh per annum for taking the tax benefit. I propose to exempt from service tax the annuity services provided by the National Pension System and the services provided by the EPFO to its employees. I also propose to reduce service tax on single premium annuity insurance policies from 3.5% to 1.4% of premium paid in certain cases. Measures to promote affordable housing. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana embodies the assurance of the government to address the housing needs of all, and more specifically the poor, in a time-bound manner. Construction of housing creates considerable employment opportunities as well. In order to fuel activity in the housing sector, I propose to give 100% deduction for profits to an undertaking from a housing projects for flats up to 30 square meters in the 4 metro cities and 60 square meters in other cities, approved during June 2016 to March 2019 and is completed within 3 years of approval. Minimum alternative tax will, however, apply to these undertakings. For the first home buyers, I propose to give a deduction for an additional interest of rupees 50,000 per annum for loans up to 35 lakhs sanctioned during the next financial year, provided value of the house does not exceed 50 lakhs. Another proposal to stimulate housing activity is to facilitate investment in the real estate investment trusts. I propose that any distribution made out of the income of the SPV by the REITs or the InvITs having specified shareholding will not be subject to the dividend distribution tax. It is proposed to exempt service tax on construction of affordable housing up to 60 square meters under any scheme of central or state government, including the PP scheme. I also propose to extend excise duty exemptions presently available to concrete mix manufactured at sites for the use of constructions at such sites to ready mix concrete. Additional resource mobilization for agriculture, rural economy and for a clean environment. Dividend distribution tax uniformly applies to all investors irrespective of their income slabs. This is perceived to distort the fairness and the progressive nature of taxes. Persons with relatively higher income can bear a higher tax cost. I therefore propose that in addition to the DDT paid by the companies, tax at the rate of 10% of the gross amount of dividend will be payable by recipients, that is an individual, HUF and firm, receiving dividend in excess of 10 lakh rupees per annum. I also propose to raise the surcharge from 12% to 15% on person other than companies, firms, cooperative societies having an income of over rupees 1 crore. I also propose to collect at source at the rate of 1% on purchase of luxury cars exceeding a value of 10 lakhs and purchase of goods and services in cash exceeding rupees 2 lakhs. For compliant taxpayers with resources, this levy will not only advance collection of taxes when expenditure is incurred, but it provides data to the tax authorities to identify the persons who incur such expenditure but may be missing from the tax base. Farmers and notified class of persons will have an option of giving a form by which TCS will not be charged. Rate of security transactions tax in the case of options is proposed to be increased from 0.017 to 0.05%. In order to tap tax on income accruing to foreign e-commerce companies from India, it is proposed that a person making a payment to a non-resident trust who does not have a permanent establishment exceeding in aggregate 1% in the year as consideration on online advertisement will withhold tax at 6% gross amount paid as equalization levy. The levy will only apply to B2B transactions. I propose to impose a cess called the Krishi Kalyan cess, that is 0.5% on all taxable services, proceeds of which would be exclusively used for financing initiatives relating to the improvement of agriculture and welfare of farmer. The cess will come into force with effect from 1st of June 2016. Input tax credit on this cess will be available for payment of this cess. The pollution and the traffic situation in Indian cities is a matter of concern. I propose to levy an infrastructure cess of 1% on small petrol, LPG and CNG cars, 2.5% on diesel cars of certain capacity, and 4% on other high engine capacity vehicles and SUVs. Madam, the exemptions the exemption rate of duty which existed on parts of environment-friendly vehicles, which expires on 31st March this year, I am planning to continue that. I propose to impose an excise duty of 1% without input tax credit or 12.5% with input tax credit on articles of jewellery, excluding silver jewellery, other than studded with diamonds and some other precious metals, with a higher exemption and eligible limits of rupees 6 crores and 12 crores respectively. Necessary steps will be taken to enable the new taxpayers to comply with this levy without any difficulty. I propose to change the excise duty on branded ready-made garments and made-up garments of textiles with a retail price of above rupees 1,000 from nil to an input tax credit of 6% oblique 12.5 with input credit to 2% without input tax credit or 12% with input tax credit. I propose to rename the clean energy cess levied on coal, lignite and peat as clean environment cess and simultaneously increase its rate from rupees 200 per ton to rupees 400 per ton. To discourage consumption of tobacco and tobacco products, I propose to increase excise duty on various tobacco products other than BDs by about 10 to 15%. I propose to amend the finance bill so as to declare assignment by the government of the right to use radio frequency spectrum in its subsequent transfer a service to make it clear that the assignment of the right to use the spectrum is service leviable to service tax and not sale of intangible goods. Reducing litigation and providing certainty in taxation. Madam, we are moving towards a lower tax regime with non-litigious approach. Thus, while compliant taxpayers can expect a supportive interface with the department, tax evasion will be countered strongly. Capability of a tax department to detect tax evasion has improved because of enhanced access to information and availability of technology-driven analytical tools to proceed such information. I want to give an opportunity to the earlier non-compliant to move to the category of being compliant. I propose a limited period compliance window for domestic taxpayers to declare undisclosed income or income represented in any form of asset and clear up their past transgressions by paying tax at 30%, a surcharge of 7.5% and a penalty of 7.5%, which is a total of 45% of the undisclosed income. There will be no scrutiny or inquiry regarding the tax declared in these declarations under the Income Tax Act or the Wealth Tax Act, and declarations will have immunity from prosecution. Immunity from Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 1988 has also been proposed subject to certain conditions. The surcharge levied 7.5% of undisclosed income will be called Krishi Kalyan surcharge and will be used for agriculture and rural economy. We plan to open the window under the income tax disclosure scheme from 1st June to 30th September 2016 with an option to pay the amount due within 2 months of the declaration. Our government is fully committed to removing black money from the economy. Having given one opportunity for those who evaded income to declare it once, we would like to focus all our resources on bringing back people with black money to the books. Litigation is a scourge on the tax-friendly regime and creates an environment of distrust in addition to
Zee 24 तास रहा एक पाऊल पुढे